and welcome to a new series I'm going to be doing here on my YouTube channel regarding my book series, The Head, the Heart, and the Air. Now, what I've decided to do is on Fridays for the foreseeable future, I will be discussing the main characters in my book and giving you some in-depth intel regarding them. Things that I know that don't necessarily come out into the books. Why do they not come out in the books? Well, it's simple. When you want to write a really good and deep character, you have to know these characters inside and out. I don't just mean, like my main character, Alex. I don't just know that she has chestnut brown wavy hair and green eyes. I don't know specifically her height and weight. I know all of that, but I also know the story about when she fell out of the tree and when she pushed Michael first and then ended up falling out of the tree. I know what she would do when she was scared at night as a little kid and what Stefan did to calm her down when she was upset. I know her entire life story. And so I thought it would be fun to go into a series where I talk a little bit more about the details of these characters that I have created and share some of the facts that I'm very well aware of that clearly you guys don't know about yet and that may not find their way into the books, because I thought it would be fun to share. So let's get started. As I said, we are going to begin with Princess Alexandria. Nice big picture. And so Princess Alexandria at the beginning of the first book is 16 years old and before the end of the first book turns 17. Her birthday is June 14th, makes her a Gemini, if you're into that kind of thing. She has, as I said, wavy brown chestnut hair and emerald green eyes, and she is 5'3" tall. Her build is muscular but slim because they didn't have as much to eat in the forest as she would have had she grown up in the castle. And her parents are King Edward of Warren and would have been Queen, but the late Princess Victoria of Warren. This is the last family portrait that was taken of them before Alex disappeared just before her 5th birthday. So now let's talk a little bit about how Alex grew up. Up until the age of 5, she grew up in the Warren Castle. So she was doted on by her mother and her father, who adored her to pieces and loved her, but also was kept away from her grandfather Arthur as much as possible because he was very upset when she was born as a girl as opposed to being a boy, considering that all of the heirs ever born in Warren for the last 1,500 years had been boys. He was shocked when she arrived, and so they expected there would be another child very quickly afterwards that would be a boy and handle everything, but that did not happen, making her the sole heir, and so she was on the bad side of her grandfather. But being his perfect little girl, she was the apple of Edward's eye and would always be the apple of his eye and the greatest thing that he ever had in his life. So when she vanished, it was completely devastating for her father, and he spent all the next 12 years trying desperately to get her back and finding as much information as he could on where she may have possibly gone to. But in those first 5 years of life, she grew up in the castle. So she wore lovely dresses, she had endless toys, endless playmates to play with all the children of the nobility and the knights and everything. She spent time playing with Cameron and the Bishop children and the Niall daughters and the Pharamons and the Strobels, like everybody. She knew all of them. Even the Dayton princes came to Warren regularly to visit her, and so she was very popular, had a ton of playmates, was often obeyed in the sense that if a princess tells you to do something, you do it kind of situation. So she's a little bit spoiled and got her way a little more often than she should have, which is a quality that was instilled in her at this young age and does not go away. But she also had access to food, clothes, anything she wanted was there at a whim. Then when she became, like just before her 5th birthday, where she vanished and ended up in the woods, she was now in the woods with Stefan. And for the first year, it was just Stefan and Alex and a bunch of other boys who had willingly taken them in. But because this is a lost boy type camp, they did not always have a lot. So luckily Alex was quite small and her share of the food and everything was more than enough. But she went from having beautiful gowns and clothes of any style and color to getting hand-me-downs from the boys in the camp. And it wasn't always warm enough in the winter and there wasn't always enough food to go around. And then a year after they got there, they found Michael and Alex brought him home with her. And so they had another mouth to feed in that. Now, the whole purpose of this camp is to take care of the orphans, and so they didn't mind having these extra kids and these extra mouths, but it does change how Alex grows up. She grew up poor from the part of her childhood that she remembers. There wasn't always enough food. It's one of the reasons that she prefers things like bread and cheese and things that were very accessible to her in the woods. Apples, for example. She knew where every apple tree was within a mile radius around that camp, because if she was hungry and she wanted a snack, she went and climbed an apple tree and got herself a snack if it was summer or fall, because she knew that they weren't always going to have those opportunities to have an abundant supply of food. So in the winter, she got very thin, and then in the summer and the fall, she would get muscular again and gain back the weight, and then lose it again in the winter. So it's kind of a cycle for her where she would get fit and strong and put on weight every fall and summer when they had more access to foods that were growing in the woods and the animals were more plentiful. And then in the winter, they kind of had to make things stretch a little bit further, and so that's when all of them got a little bit thinner. But as I said, Alex was a master of climbing trees because she learned quickly if she wanted apples, she had to be able to climb the tree and get them down herself. So she learned how to climb trees just so she could go and get all the fruit out of the local fruit trees. But apples have always been her favorite, probably because they last so long. If she picked a ton of apples in August and September, they could still last and still be delicious in January and December. Whereas if she picked something like peaches and that, they didn't really have the resources in the camp in order to hold them. So she had to eat them right away, otherwise she was out of luck. So that is one of the reasons that climbing trees is one of her most favorite childhood memories. It gave her a place to hide from the boys when she needed to clear her head and think, because being the smallest in the camp, because she was a girl and also was the youngest for quite a while, quite a long stretch of time before younger people came, she could climb trees better than most of the boys. She was nimble, she was small, she could fit between branches that were closer together much easier than other people, and Michael enjoyed doing it as well, so it was kind of their thing. But she also would use this opportunity to get food for the boys at the camp, to get away when she just needed a break or when they were picking on her because she was a girl and she was smaller and she was weak. And so trees have a very happy place for her, which is probably a good thing considering that she has Celtic powers, because she can do things with trees. And maybe that's one of the reasons she was so drawn to trees without realizing it, is that they were a part of her before she even knew. So everybody has secret talents while you're growing up, and that Alex's clearly was magic, something that she didn't even know she had, so it was even a secret from her. But her other talent was horses. She seemed to have a knack with horses. She's able to calm any horse that's going crazy. When any of the horses were scared or upset in the stable, she could come and calm them down without any real effort or thought to it. We also want to talk about who Alex's best friend is. Clearly, Alex's best friend is Michael. Before Michael, when they were small children, she probably would have given the title to Aaron because she spent more time with him. But growing up in the woods with the boys, Michael was by far her favorite because he was always nice to her. He enjoyed doing the things with her she did. He would help her with things instead of mocking her for being smaller, and he taught her to use a bow and stand up to Graham and how to punch a guy. So Michael was by far her favorite, even if Stefan was her protector. So along with being really good with horses, Alex had her own horse who was named Flash, which she managed to get when she was 13. She always hated Michael's horse Trapper because he bit her once, and so even though she has a way with horses, Trapper was the exception to that kind of a rule. So for resemblances in that, she very much looks like her mother. Everybody knows she's the clone of her mother, but she very much has the personality and the tenacity of her father, where she is able to walk into a room and command their attention the way that her father could do without any issues in that, and is very well respected in that regard. And so she has her dad's calm demeanor and that, but she does have her grandfather's temper as well, which is something she struggles with for a very long time. And on that point, her worst fear is losing someone else that she loves the way that she lost her mother, and failing the people that are left behind. So this is something she lives with every day because she's very worried about losing another person that she loves, because she does not think that she could lose anybody else. So there's a little bit more on Alex, or Princess Elizabeth Katrina Alexandria of Warren. And I hope you learned something new about Alex. If you have any other questions about Alex, drop them in the comments and I will happily answer them for you. But otherwise, I hope you have a great day and happy reading.